In this timeline, history no longer follows its expected course. To measure the divergence, we use a custom algorithm, the timeline divergence score. It analyzes 4 variables. Ripple potential, how far the event spreads through time and space. Population impact, how many lives and cultures are affected. Knowledge transfer, the exchange of ideas, language, and technology. And conflict chain reaction, the risk of wars, power shifts, and instability. Each event updates the score. As the numbers rise, the future drifts further from what was into what could have been. A storm, a wrong shore, a navigational error, but also the beginning of a new world. Welcome to the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect begins on July 5, 1205. A fleet from the Song Dynasty, led by Admiral Yuren, departed with the aim of strengthening trade ties with the Philippines. But a violent typhoon caught them mid-Pacific. The strongest ships endured, drifting off course for weeks. On November 20th, they made landfall on a lush, unfamiliar coastline. It was not Asia. It was the New World. Only 30 survived the voyage, rationing supplies, relying on discipline and luck. Over the next 2 years, the survivors faced the unknown. Local tribes, wary yet curious, approached slowly. The Chinese, weakened and unsure, held one decisive advantage: primitive fire lances. It was 1207. Flames and shards erupted from bamboo tubes. The tribes believed they were divine beings. That mythical fear gave the Chinese precious time to establish a foothold. They named the land Xīnyá, New Frontier. They built storage huts, explored inland, and under the stars, they planned their voyage home. On the 4th of August, 1207, using salvaged wood and forced native labor, they repaired 3 junks. A small crew, led once more by Yuren, sailed westward, guided only by the stars. Months later, they reached the Philippines. On January 10th, 1208, the surviving ships arrived in Zhongzhou. The empire was shaken by the tales they brought. Exotic fruits with red skin, unknown in Asia, were presented to Emperor Ningzong. Local people were brought as living proof of a distant land. Between 1208 and 1212, the Song Dynasty prepared its mission. 12 reinforced junks were built. Over 800 men were selected: sailors, scribes, Confucian monks, doctors, and astronomers, all led by the seasoned Yuren. The fleet now sailed with floating gardens and tanks of fresh water, hard-earned lessons from Xīnyá. The fleet reached the New World on January 26, 1214. From the woods, bamboo drums echoed, not a warning, but a welcome. The colony had survived. Tall palisades stood. A Creole dialect was forming, and the tribes, still cautious, did not attack. But back in China, the Mongol threat was rising. In 1215, Emperor Ningzong halted all overseas missions. The remaining ships were recalled to defend the Yellow River. The colony was left alone. A jade tablet had been sent with the expedition. Wait 5 years. If no one returns, go back on your own. Between 1215 and 1222, Xīnyá entered a period of isolation and growth. Thousands of miles from home, it endured. Without contact, it evolved. Temples, canals, fortresses. The settlers blended with the natives. New voices emerged. New loyalties were born. In 1218, Admiral Yuren died, likely of tuberculosis. He left behind a son, born from a Mixtec woman, a tribe gradually integrated into the colony. His death left a power vacuum. It was soon filled by a bold young shipbuilder named Han Yuren, strong, charismatic, and fearless. Under Han's leadership, the colony expanded. Some tribes were welcomed, others resisted. Xīnyá was no longer a dream, it was a frontier. By 1219, two main settlements had emerged. Xīnyá, along the Avia, the original outpost controlled by Han, mostly inhabited by Chinese settlers. Liangang, the coastal port founded by Li Shangyuan, now home to mixed families and second-generation colonists. On December 5, 1222, Han Yuren brought Liangang under his control, ending its delicate balance between the old loyalists and the new generation. With both main settlements united, Han took decisive action. He assembled 200 men, veteran Chinese, locally born youths, and allied native warriors to subdue semi-nomadic tribes in the northern hills. Though not hostile, these tribes traded with the Nahua and refused to recognize Han's authority. To Han, they were either a threat or an opportunity. In 1223, as Han moved to subjugate the hill tribes, a new danger emerged. From the sacred highlands came the Nahua, a proud, warlike people driven by rage and memory. They were led by Xīnyá, the Grey Eagle, a legendary figure whose name inspired both fear and reverence. The Nahua saw the colonists, pale-skinned, armed with fire and metal, speaking unnatural tongues and worshipping distant skies, as demons. Intruders. They launched a campaign of terror, attacking allies, burning supply routes, and cutting off the colony. The hard-earned balance shattered. A brutal war began. It would last 6 years. By 1228, Xīnyá was on the brink. Famine, raids, sieges. A new hero rise. Wei Qinzhong, son of Li Shangyuan and a native mother. A fierce warrior, a born leader, bridging two worlds. He proposed a desperate plan. With Han Yuren's support, he gathered what remained of their navy. 2 patched junks, a handful of seasoned sailors, and scrolls, maps, seeds, chronicles. They sailed west, more on hope than wind. On January 19th, 1229, they landed not in China, but in Japan. Captured, they were interrogated by the Kamakura shogunate. Monks who knew some Chinese translated their stories. Daimi Kawakami Tominari saw an opportunity. If what you say is true, you'll be spared. If you lie, you'll die. 6 Japanese ships sailed. 7 months later, they reached Xīnyá. What they found: famine, ruins, resistance. The colony was under siege. In February 1232, the first great intercontinental war of the New World began. The Japanese were few, but elite, armed, disciplined, guided by honor. They brought matchlock guns, military strategy, and a hunger for glory. Together with the remaining colonists, they struck back. The Nahua lines, once dominant, faltered. Gunpowder, now Chinese and Japanese, wreaked havoc. Smoke became sacred to some, doomed to others. On April 3rd, 1235, the Song flag fell. Kawakomi's banner flew over Xīnyá. In the heart of the burning city, Han Yuren struck the final blow, and the Grey Eagle fell. With the fall of Nahua's, Kawakomi sent a ship back to Japan, carrying scrolls, spices, animal hides, and hand-drawn maps. While Japan debated the colony's recognition, tensions rise. Kawakomi controlled the north, backed by Han Yuren, who now believed Xīnyá's future lay with Japan. Wei Qinzhong dreamed of independence. He led mixed blood settlers and tribal allies in the south, founding new villages. Liangang, at the center, became a neutral-free zone. Trade flourished, spices, metals, hides, and intelligence. With the fall of Kuetlak's clan, the Japanese secured full control of the northern region. Peace reigned, but fragile. In 1239, 4 years later, Japan officially recognized Amaterasu no Kuni, land of the sun goddess, a new province under Kawakami's rule. With the fall of Kuetlak's clan, the Japanese secured full control of the northern region. Wei was disheartened, but no war followed. The powers were balanced. No side wanted another conflict. On June 6, 1241, Japanese civilian ships arrived, artisans, monks, families, officials. The new colony began to take shape. Between 1241 and 1244, new ships came regularly. Trade with Japan intensified. Weapons, silk, sake came in, cocoa, spices, laborers went out. Lianggang prospered, but tension brewed. Mixed settlers eyed the newcomers warily. The Japanese demanded order and obedience. In 1244, Han Yuren died suddenly, the last charismatic leader of the original colony. His death marked the end of an era for Xīnyá. 14 years earlier, he had fathered 2 children with a Chinese settler woman. Kawakami ruled the north, enforcing conscription. Wei Qin-jong defended the south, championing liberty and autonomy, becoming leader of Free City of Xīnyá. Conflict loomed, but war was feared more than coexistence. Lianggang remained a fatal, watchful heart, free, but under careful eyes. The southern realm stayed loyal to its Chinese roots. Its people, mostly of Mixtec descent, flew their own flag, coexisting with the north while resisting full control. And far to the east, whispers of a Japanese colony in the New World finally reached the Chinese court. The empire listened and took note. It is now 1245. 40 years after a storm changed the course of history, our timeline has diverged forever.